Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Join the conversation on our social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it.
Welcome back for another edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. I am your host, Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, is the co-host. It's Padawan J.
You know, if I ever hit a half-court shot, I hope I get a little more than like $100,000 worth of scratch-off tickets. That's some low stuff. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, Google it.
Yeah, that's a really messy story.
Yeah, it involves the Knicks, too, which is sad.
Well, if we're talking Knicks, we have one Knicks expert in the building. It is your coach. It is my coach. It is the coach.
Jeff Van Gundy?
Coach Duffy.
Oh.
Upon additional footage received to us during review, it is still not a first down.
Ah.
And since we're talking about that game, we had to bring back an old friend of the show. You know him from the Tales of the Dog blog on OchoDuroParlayHour.com. Edwin Fortunato has decided to return. Dog, how are we doing?
Good. How you doing?
Man, of simple words. I like
Simple, just easy, just
Simple.
real right to the point, dog.
Because he has a lot to say, as we all do, talking about the NFL Divisional playoffs. So we're going to kick off the show with that. And obviously, join in the conversation on social media. You can find all our links on OchoDuroParlayHour.com. And remember to use the hashtag ODPH to join in that conversation. So, Pad, let's waste no more time.
Sure.
We have to recap the NFL Divisional weekend, and let's start with the Vikings and Niners.
Yeah, this one was a wild one. San Francisco 49ers ended up defeating the Minnesota Vikings by the final score of 27-10. Jimmy Garoppolo, 11 of 19 for 131 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Kirk Cousins, 21 of 29 for 172 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
Coach, your thoughts?
Minnesota looked terrible. I mean, offensively, it was a dud of a performance coming off of that big game against New Orleans. And the fact that that performance is what tailed Minnesota's former offensive coordinator to get a head coaching job is
Little
boggling to me.
Puzzling.
I mean, but Cleveland does what Cleveland does. So
Yeah.
And what else can you say about San Francisco? I mean, that defense is
Healthy. And that's a scary thought.
It's dangerous. I mean, what they were able to do as far as just getting pressure on the quarterback, able to limit Dalvin Cook and his carries, and offensively, you know, obviously Garoppolo didn't need to do much, but they were still able to put points on the board. So this San Francisco team is very, very scary, and they're peaking at a very good time.
Dalvin Cook, 9 carries on 18 yards, average 2 yards per carry. I'll say this.
Yikes.
Give me NFL pads and give me maybe like 10-yard head start or like a 10-yard gap between me and the defensive line. I'm pretty sure I could get those kind of numbers.
Dog, you have any feelings on this game?
I don't know. Just San Francisco's coming back, and
It's painful for him to say. I can see.
which,
Yeah,
It's-
well, I have to include you in the conversation. I know we're going to talk Seattle, but
I
I know
know.
you've seen the Niners. You don't want to praise them, but you have to give them a little due on that.
yeah, and it'll be good. It'll be good NFC Championship game
Yeah,
as well. Preview.
it's going to be interesting to see how this all shapes up, because the Niners, we don't really hear a lot about their players. They're almost, after Garoppolo, it's kind of, who is San Francisco? Not in the sense of who is Atlanta.
What is Atlanta?
This is a team that is all team. And what I mean by this,
Yeah.
no real superstars. George Kittle, you can kind of say
Emerging.
yes. Emerging.
Well, I mean, he
Emerging
had
emerged.
a pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I would say if you name anybody besides Garoppolo, it'd be Kittle would be the next guy. And
Yeah.
then you go from there and you'd say, wait, who do they got wide receiver? And I mean, obviously, if you follow, you know that they trade for Emmanuel Sanders.
Right.
He's not doing much right now.
Right.
Debo Samuel, rookie out of South Carolina, who
Debo's killing it.
yeah,
right
who
now.
I really liked coming out of college. You know, is another player that they have right now. And then obviously a very good running game. I mean, what Kyle Shanahan does is something that I hope that what the Giants do with Joe Judge next year, which is you don't put round pegs into a square hole. And that's exactly what Kyle Shanahan does. He plays to the strength of this team, which is they can run the ball down your throat, And if the run doesn't work, then Garoppolo is very, very good because of his tutelage under Tom Brady in that offense of getting the ball out of his hands quick. I mean, they put a stat up on during the game that his average pass is 6.7 yards.
Ooh,
That's insane.
Average pass is
pretty good.
6.7 yards. That's
pretty good.
But the average after the catch yardage is 10 plus yards. So
yeah.
that's literally meaning that the wide receivers are yakking another 10 yards on top of that catch. So that means that they are running routes that are able to get their wide receivers open, which they are now able to have time for Garoppolo to get the ball out, and that offense just moves off of that. It's literally, I mean, I'm sure if the 49ers longtime head coach who created Bill Walsh could see this, thank you, Doug. If he could see this offense, he would be in tears because this is a West Coast offense minus the split running back form in the near and the far formations. This is literally the purest form the West Coast offense the NFL has right now.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what you said, Ken. They're essentially making 5-star meals with like 3-star ingredients. Where you look at their running game, okay, Tevin Coleman, their leading rusher, with 22 carries for 105 yards. On the season, he had 137 attempts for 544 yards and 6 touchdowns. And then the other gentleman on their running game, Raheem Mostert, 12 carries for 58 yards, and on the season, he had 772 yards and 8 touchdowns. Now, not exactly guys I think any of us are going to be picking up on the waiver wire for like crap, my backup running back is injured, isn't going to play, whatever.
I mean, I picked up more stat.
Okay, that's fair. But like
Well, you're the coach.
But
so-
yeah, I mean, I saw what was coming here.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the names, though, and you're like, all right, these aren't exactly guys I'm going to be picking up for my backups when my starters are on bye weeks. And then you look at their receiving core, okay, Deebo Samuel having a great season, but unless you have you either a fan of the 49ers or you're a fan of one of the other teams in that division, or you're a fan of the South Carolina Gamecocks, you're not really familiar with who he is. And then you look at, okay, they got Emmanuel Sanders. That to me, okay, yeah, he's a good receiver. He's this or that. He falls under that category. If you're watching a 49ers game and either you're not a fan of the 49ers or any of the other teams in the division, you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot he's on that team. And yeah, they got Kittle, but Kittle's an emerging star.
Yeah, Kittle's emerging, and like I said, he's the breakout star of this team, that he is drawing that much attention from defenses that other players need to step up. And this is where you're seeing Deebo Samuel really shine. Emmanuel Sanders, since the trade, has done well. Had some injuries, though, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Right.
And Kendrick Bourne, that's another emerging player. And how the Niners are doing this with the team-first mentality. Not saying that any other team is not team-first, but when you think about this, Garoppolo is leading a team of unknowns into a deep run in the playoffs. And you have to credit John Lynch as the GM for putting this monster together.
Damn.
And what he's done on defense with grabbing Nick Bosa.
Everybody, I don't care who you are, unless you are a purist John Lynch fan, was killing the Niners for picking him up as a general manager. And his first year was bad. Everybody was like, man, what was San Francisco doing picking him up? But he was stripping it to the nuts and bolts.
Yep.
And then he rebuilt this in his image. And this team is literally getting after it almost the way that John Lynch's old Tampa Bay teams would have.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the purest form of him. You know, I mean, this is literally his football team incarnated on the football field. And, I mean, yeah, Kyle Shanahan was the perfect pair for quarterback. I mean, for coach. I already mentioned the reason why before. So, I mean, it's literally like Bosa. I mean, losing my train of thought here, but Bosa, what he's been able to do defensively is insane. It just goes to show, and it goes back to that 07 Giants team. What you can do when you have a front four that can put pressure on the quarterback without needing to blitz. Because when you have a front four that can get, first off, they got to be able to stop the run, which this 49ers team does very, very well.
Very well.
Obviously. Secondly, once they're able to stop the run, they need to be able to get the pressure on the quarterback without blitzing, which is exactly what the 49ers can do. Because what that does is, when you put pressure on the quarterback with your front four, you're able to drop everybody else back into coverage. And that's when it becomes dangerous for a quarterback, because then you get zone blitzes. Then you get misreads. So it looks like they're running a man scheme, but all of a sudden they can drop into a cover two. And then you're talking about zone blitzes.
Yeah.
So now you're picking up that they're running a cover 2, but before you know it, in comes a safety out of nowhere blitzing you because they're able to do that and still. And the defensive line is so athletic that they can drop them into coverage and not miss a beat. So it's literally like. It's almost like a unified front with the ability to do everything. I mean, it's almost like a utility player like a Giannis Antetokounmpo in basketball, how he can play all 5 positions. That's what these guys can do. They're able to drop into they're jack of all trades, basically.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And to look at the flip side of the coin, how they shut down Minnesota. Dalvin Cook, 9 carries, 18 yards. Mm-hmm. And when you have to make Kirk Cousins beat you, no offense, we have said Kirk Cousins is an enigma. We don't know what we're going to get on that each week. Some weeks it's you like that, and some weeks it's
where was that?
Yeah, where was that? This was one of those where was that weeks that they came in off the big win in New Orleans, but they were not going to get the same kind of offense going against Frisco.
Well, I mean, and I think that's part of the problem. I mean, when you limit somebody and then you force, Kirk Cousins beat you, it's almost like you got to then put him in a position to be successful. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the problem with Minnesota's offense. Like, all right, so if Dalvin Cook's not going, you have to rely on Kirk Cousins, and that's where Minnesota comes up and they just come up short because they can't do that. So it's like, all right, why isn't Kirk Cousins able to do that? And I think that's something that as a coaching staff, you got to look back and you got to think, all right, we have Stephon Diggs, we have Kyle Rudolph, and we have the other wide receiver, somebody. Thielen. We have talented offensive players. There's no reason why that we can't put our quarterback in a position to be successful. And that's when you need to go back in. You got to say, all right, maybe we need to adjust what we're trying to do offensively, because what I'm trying to do, and it goes back to round pegs and square holes.
Yep.
You got to put your players in a position to be successful. So if the offensive scheme that you're running isn't working, then that's your job as a coaching staff to say, all right, what's not working? What do we need to do to put you in a better position to be successful? And if it's, all right, well, the play action's not working, all right, then we need to make intermediate routes more open. So maybe we run some drags and we run some curls over the middle and maybe some in routes, so that way we can get people in the middle with space and then they can be successful. Because let's face it, Stephon Diggs and Thielen are very explosive wide receivers that if they're in space, they can get yardage.
Oh, yeah.
So it's why not get the ball into your playmakers' hands and not have to rely on Cousins dropping, doing a 5-step, maybe even a 7-step drop back, and then have to have him try to find wide receivers. Instead, get those guys in open in space and let them move the ball downfield.
Yeah.
And that's what San Francisco does, and that's why they're successful.
Exactly, and this goes to show they can shut down great teams. And Minnesota, they have a lot of questions going into the offseason now. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I saw that somebody was talking Thielen is that's a real deal. Or not Thielen, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they have an opt-out clause after this year or something like that. They can release him, and it's not going to hurt them against the cap. So it's very telling.
Well, you figure you're paying him $90 million guaranteed. And if this is as far as you're getting, you have to look and say, okay, is the investment paying off?
Ooh, they do. There is a no transition tag after 2020.
Yep.
So, obviously, if they want to keep paying, they're going to have to make a big decision. And, obviously, they have some coaching changes they're going to have to deal with their offensive coordinator now taking over the reins at Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And we'll have to see what happens there. Don't really have a lot to say on that right now, so give me another week and I'll kind of let that digest. But for this, you have to say the Niners came in, did what a number 1 seed does, and now they'll be waiting the winner of Sunday night's game. We're going to keep this in the NFC. Dog, I know you're not going to like hearing this, but we have to recap the game. So, Pad, let's talk about Seattle and Green Bay, shall we?
Yeah, so you had Green Bay taking on the Seattle Seahawks on the Sunday night game?
It was a late Sunday night game.
Late Sunday night game where Green Bay Packers won by the final score of 28-23. Aaron Rodgers, 16 of 27 for 243 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Russell Wilson, 21 of 31 for 277 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions.
Dog, would you like to address the game?
It's just, it was a very good game. It's just, I'm like, and I'm a very loyal Seahawks fan, but I am completely, like, lost how they can, like, like it was. Their games usually they're like a tale of two halves with them. I don't know what is going on. It's just I know they try to start off running the ball and everything, but it's just like I know they were down their 3 running backs and everything, and everybody's hurt at this point in time. But it's just like I feel bad for I don't know. I feel bad for Russell Wilson because it's just I don't I can't explain it. It's just like
I've been there. I've felt this pain.
I mean, just looking at the stats, it's one of those scenarios like what more could he have done? 277 yards passing, like I mentioned, averaged 8.9 yards per pass. You flip it to the receiving side, Tyler Lockett, 136 yards passing. DK Metcalf, 59 yards passing. Jacob Hollister, 47 yards passing. So it's like he's throwing the ball all over the yard, but just they needed that extra, inch, that extra oomph, whatever it was. Just I don't know what they need to do.
And that drop by Turner on first down, and the last drive was
killer.
Was a killer. And then they took us. I don't know why they probably should have at least gone for it on fourth down, actually. So, but it's like
at that stage, it's like,
and then Aaron Rodgers, and they made the plays that they were freaking killer on fourth or third down. They're like 9 for 14. How can you defend that? It's like,
yeah, I mean, to me, watching this game, it just looked like Seattle came out timid.
Yeah.
Or a little more conservative than they probably should have. And, obviously Green Bay was able to turn it up offensively and able to get up in the game early, and that put pressure on Seattle, then have to play from behind, which, doesn't look like – I didn't watch a ton of Seattle games, but from this game, doesn't look like Seattle was very good at doing, playing big from behind, I should say. Obviously, the injuries – killed them in the running back position, having to go to their the fourth-string rookie who looked good. What's 25 there?
Travis Homer.
Yeah, Homer. He looked fine. Like, he was serviceable. And then, obviously, having to rely on, unretired Marshawn Lynch to have to come back late in the year. To
11th hour.
Yeah, 11th, literally. To have to come back and be your lead back, is probably not the position that you'd want your organization to be in going into the playoffs. And, it was tough on Seattle. And then, the third downs killed them.
They got destroyed on that.
I watch it, and the one in particular where they hit that Devontae Adams fly route.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, how you are not calling, especially when you see him in the slot, you have to know that, all right, if he's in the slot, then it's going to be a mismatch because obviously they're not going to switch your inside corner into Devontae Adams in the slot. How you don't double team him over the top with a safety? You just watched the game before where they were literally double teaming wide receivers the entire. Kansas City was all over Andre Johnson. Or not Andre Johnson. Oh, my God. Braveheart. DeAndre Hopkins. They were all over him. Literally, he couldn't breathe without Honey Badger coming up and hitting him and double teaming him with a linebacker and bumping him off the line of scrimmage. He couldn't even get space. How you don't do that against Devontae Adams, who's one of the best route runners in all of the NFL, that was what was troubling to me. And it's like, I think that, it was a 4th and 9, I believe that play was. That's definitely a time, because he's not going to run an in or a slant. He's going up. They're going to go for the home run because you're bringing pressure, and they know that you're dialing up a blitz. So that was, wicked troubling to me. And then Pete Carroll with the timeouts. What the hell was he doing? We want to talk about mismanaging a clock. Calling those timeouts early and then having the last one on that then – crucial third down play that Jimmy Graham was short on. Let's be real here. And then having to force to call it. If you had 2 more timeouts in your back pocket, you might have been all right, but you blew them early, and now you're in a position that you're in. But that, we haven't even talked about the Jimmy Graham play, and that, to me, how there is not some sort of call on the fly or something that could have been. I mean, again, though, this is us talking about the referees, but that was clearly short. I
Yeah.
mean, if you watch the replay and you see it from the pylon angle, you could see that the elbow was down and the head was down. The head was down, which means that the elbow was down. How there isn't some way that you could determine, and plus the yardage, he had to get to the 36-yard line, and his body was on the ground at the 35.
Yeah. This was one of those games that Seattle was two teams in this game. First half, they looked atrocious. And Aaron Rodgers proved why he is Aaron Rodgers. He tore them apart. Plain and simple. That there was no real... I mean, if you want to break it down...
Devontae Adams averaged 20 yards a catch.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's that's not Aaron Rodgers. That's Devontae Adams being Devontae Adams.
I'll say Aaron Rodgers averaged 1 yard short of a first down for every pass.
Right, that's why I'm saying he really set the tempo. And Adams picked up the slack, too. There was no question of that. And even Aaron Jones was running well, too, until he got hurt there. But they really set the tempo early. Seattle, though, showed in the second half why they're a very dangerous team no matter what. And you have to give the credit to Russell Wilson. Because other than him being a one-man offensive show, what else could he have done? He literally did everything to keep him in that game.
And so he led the team in rushing.
Yeah.
7 carries for 64 yards.
Yeah, but it's like, what else could he have done?
This is the problem, though, when you commit that kind of money to a quarterback.
Yeah.
This is your end result. You don't have the luxury. And, I mean, obviously, getting DK Metcalf is huge because I said on our draft show, I said all along, I loved them. When the Giants were at 18, I had said that I wanted them to get a wide receiver.
New England was in position to get him, and I'm sitting there going,
yeah,
take him.
Whether it was DK Metcalf or even the other kid from Ole Miss. I wanted either one of them. And, obviously, I did not get my wish. So, he is going to be a hell of a player paired with Russell Wilson for a few years. But back to my original point here, when you're paying somebody $25 million and it's basically eating 1/4 of your cap, that makes it difficult for you to put players around him. And that was this. Forget the injuries and the Marshawn Lynch returning. They didn't have anybody else as far as a skill set player that helps him offensively. And luckily the offensive lines come back and played well. But when you've got Fluker as one of your offensive linemen, who was a former Giant, who was ran out of New York, that is bad news Bears.
Yeah. There's so much that is tied into Russell Wilson's contract that really prevents Seattle from taking the next step. But they did do the best with what they had. And that's what you expect out of good teams. That they went into Green Bay. They gave them a run at the end, but they were in too far of a hole from the beginning.
Well, I mean, again, though, I mean, they're in a much better position today.
Oh, yeah.
Seattle is than they were going into the game because they're going to get C.J. Prosise back. They're going to get who's the other running back? I just know C.J. Prosise because he went to Notre Dame. Penny.
Rashad
they're
Penny
going to get
and
Penny
Chris-
back
Chris
and
Carson.
Carson's back. So they're going to have those guys back. Pair them with DK Metcalf. The defense is going to be there next year. Obviously, Clowney is a question mark. But, I mean, if they're willing to pay him, I mean, you traded, you mortgaged the future to get him. So, you kind of have to try and pay him. But, I mean, if that all comes back, Seattle's going to be a very good team moving forward.
They do have $68.5 million in cap space to play with.
So they're going to have to make the best with that.
And I think they can.
They have a lot of free agents, both on both lines.
Yeah, well, I mean, Clowney, I think, has got to be the priority.
Yeah, Clowney, you got to bring back. That's something their hand is forced on. That no matter what, they have to. When you trade as much as they did to go get him, you can't give up that much and then let him go in free agency because that is embarrassing on your organization. Right, but Seattle has shown that they can make some magic happen, and
yeah,
I think that they're going to be okay in the offseason. I think they just need another wide receiver to pair off with Metcalf. I think that would be a big priority because the running game, like you said, if injuries don't happen, it's a different game.
Oh, for sure.
Another wide receiver, even maybe a veteran running back that, maybe a Frank Gore in Buffalo.
Yeah,
Frank Gore is not going to be your every down back, but God forbid your Singletary, your starting running back up in Buffalo goes down. You got somebody in the backfield like, all right, we don't got to really put a lot of knowledge and learning into this guy. He knows what to do.
You can never have enough depth at running back. Never.
Well, I mean, they do. It's just 3 running backs got injured. I mean, that's unheard of, man.
2 on consecutive plays. In the second to last game of the season. So
like
it's
CJ Prosise breaks his arm out of completely left field after barely playing most of the year, and Chris Carson and Penny go down. It's like Penny and Carson were your 1A and 1B.
Right.
So like then you have to rely on Prosise, who, I mean, is serviceable, but he's not an elite starting running back in the NFL. So it's like you have depth. I mean, we can name all 3 of their running backs. The problem is wide receiver and probably tight end, because if anything, Jimmy Graham being the one that caught that pass would probably piss me the most off as a Seattle fan, because he did diddly-do in Seattle for 2 years.
Yeah.
Back-to-back, and stunk up the joint. I would say that you need to pair DK Metcalf with a very speedy, quick wide receiver on the outside, because Metcalf obviously not only is quick, but he's huge. 6'4", man. You throw that ball up and he's there. Pair him with like a good example would be a Julian Edelman, somebody who can be on the inside of him on the slot, who can take the focus of the middle of the field up, so DK Metcalf can run those fly routes upfield and not have so much attention because the safeties are distracted by Edelman. That would be the perfect pairing. But, I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be Edelman. It could be somebody else of that nature, but that's what you need. You need somebody over the middle to help DK Metcalf get open over the top.
And they do have a good young tight end, but he's Disley, but he's gone on IR the last 2 years, so it's like either...
Why are you cursed in tight end then? Do you want Evan Ingram? I mean, you don't have any picks, but... right now, I'd be willing to give up Evan Ingram for a picks.
Well, I mean, that's something you got to kind of look at.
Yeah.
Evan Ingram's just as injury prone as Disley is right now. I mean, Ingram's been on injury for the last 2 years too. So
I would have to say they do have a very good young team.
Yeah, I mean, and Russell Wilson has pieces in place. So I mean, if I was Dog, I would feel comfortable knowing in Seattle's future.
I have to agree. And, Dog, I think you got to be very happy with it. And on the flip of the coin, Green Bay, you have to be extremely happy with Rodgers carrying your team and Adams being the emerging superstar he is, too.
Very much flying under the radar.
I mean, he's been known. I mean, his route running skills is of the elite level. And I am so I'm literally tossing this game up. I keep, thinking about it, and I'm like, I like San Francisco 1 minute, but then the next minute I like Green Bay because they're playing so hot right now. So it's like I keep going back and forth on it. I literally don't know who to take in this because I mean Green Bay's defense isn't great, but they do play great. It's so tough because the 49ers offense isn't great, but they're good. But their defense is great. Green Bay's offense is great, so I'm like, God. Yeah. I run back and forth. I can't pick a team.
It's a good matchup, and you can't look at the regular season game.
No, you can't.
You have to throw that one out.
You got to throw that out, and you can't even like the fact that San Francisco is playing at home because Green Bay played so well on the road this year. So you're like, anything that gives you a clue of who to pick, you're like counterpoint.
Yeah, we're going to be waiting to the end of the show to give our official picks. But let's get a quick break in. We just recapped the NFC Divisional Round games. We're going to come back and talk AFC action with you. Hit us up on the social media accounts, #ODPH. What was your takeaways from the NFC games this past weekend? We want to know. We'll be right back.
Okay, it's time to record the promo.
What?
Promo.
The what?
The promo. We should record a promo.
I don't have the body for porno.
No, a promo.
Oh, guys, we should record a promo.
Oh, that's a great idea. Hey, we're 3 hours later. I'm Matt.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Mike.
We started this podcast because there's too much content in the world, and finding something worth your time could be a hassle.
That's where we step in.
Every week we listen, watch, or play something for up to 3 hours, and then we come back together to talk about it and see if it's possibly worth your time.
Follow us on Twitter at @3HRS_later, and our Facebook and Instagram, 3HRS later. And please give us a review on Podchaser and iTunes. And we have a Linktree link as well with everything else. linktr.ee/3 hours later.
3 hours later. Hey, that was a great idea, Mike.
I hate you both.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton. Woo!
Hot lips touching, cool thighs breathing, shudder running up, her spine spinning, long day to a long night, but I'm not stopping till I get it right.
Coming back for the second segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have to talk some AFC divisional football. And probably the biggest shock of the weekend was
Besides
Tennessee,
the Bulldogs upset,
which we will get into later in the show.
Hey.
Like the segue. We have to talk about the Titans and the Ravens. Pad.
Yeah.
Break it down.
So this game was absolutely wild. A little bit of backstory, side story. Ken and myself were at Richapalooza this past weekend.
Shout out 3FN.
3FN. Shout out to those guys. What percentage of the folks in attendance there would you say were invested in this game? Like 85, 90% of them?
I would say basically everybody there. I mean,
There was
even Mike C. from Horizon 607, who is not a football guy. He's a Brian Cashman guy.
Yeah.
He was definitely in this. I know.
There was at least, 25, 30 people at this party?
At that point, yes.
25, 30 people. That 90% of them were all invested in this game and what was going on because it was that wild. Tennessee Titans went into Baltimore, looked fear in the eye, and said, I am not scared. The Tennessee Titans defeated the Baltimore Ravens by the final score of 28-12. Ryan Tannehill, 7 of 14 for 88 yards. Lamar Jackson, 31 of 59 for 365 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions.
Coach, your thoughts?
I mean, does this Tennessee Titans team remind you of a certain other team?
No.
I'm talking about the 07 Giants, maybe, where they just ran the ball down your freaking throat.
Did they run the ball this much, though? Because
I mean, not this much, but they ran it a lot. And what did they do then? They set up play action, and they gave it to Plexico Burris and watched him work. And that's exactly what this was. Ahmad Bradshaw right, Brandon Jacobs left, play action left, Plexico Burris downfield. And that's exactly what this Tennessee... And then what else do? They get after you defensively. And that's exactly what this Tennessee Titans defense is doing, and it's exactly what this Tennessee team is doing. And I love watching it. I love watching this old school football where you know Henry's getting the ball, and you know you're not going to be able to stop him. I mean, Baltimore literally knew that they were running the ball. I mean, they were not even trying to hide the fact that it was a play, that it was going to be a run. And he still got 8 yards at a minimum. The man is a freaking beast.
Yeah.
Literally. Like, not even figuratively. He is literally a beast. When you are 6'4" as a running back and you are plowing dudes, like, they can't even tackle him. They can't even tackle. Did you see the play where he spun
Earl Thomas, making him as his blocker? It's like
spun Thomas around. Like, this is Earl Thomas, one of the most feared safeties in all of football. And Derrick Henry's running downfield, and he literally spins him like a child. Like, that is how I stiff-arm my son to get him away when I'm, like, trying to go to the bathroom. I'm like, Finn, back up. But this is a grown man doing this to another grown man, and then he spins him around, and then Earl Thomas just turns and is like, all right, I'll go this way. See ya.
First time in NFL history that a defensive player was a leading blocker for a person on offense.
Yeah. Dog, you have any thoughts on this game?
I didn't really see it that much. It was just...
We were preoccupied during this game.
Yeah, for most of it. And I just... sort of like... I know the Ravens... Well, they scored a lot of points this year, but they just got into that mindset, kind of like Seattle, that they I don't know if they were not used to having to come from behind, but when they did, they're dropping balls and going for fourth downs when they shouldn't have, and everything, and they just couldn't. I mean, when you have Lamar Jackson throw the ball 60 times, it's just like... It's not going to be good.
No, this was definitely a change of pace game for the Ravens. And, I mean, Lamar Jackson did what he could, but Mike Bravel and his coaching staff came up with a perfect game plan to neutralize the most explosive offense in the NFL.
Yeah.
And you have to tip your hat to him. And like Coach touched upon, Derrick Henry is a man amongst boys in that game.
So as a former WWE wrestler used to say, feed me more.
Yeah, he just was literally dominating everybody. And like how Coach was putting, it was just like he was just turning them inside out, running right through them. He was just a force of nature that they couldn't stop. And when that happens, it doesn't matter what defense you have there, it's going to be a long day. And when Ryan Tannehill throws for, 88 yards?
Uh-huh.
And can get a W out of that, I mean, that just goes to show how good Henry is. And like I said, he is just a man amongst boys playing that game. And he made them look like, kids.
It's just insane.
Yeah, I mean, and Tannehill doesn't, and they put him in a position, again, it all just is related. They're putting Tannehill in a position that he can be successful. I mean, Ryan Tannehill is still Ryan Tannehill. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, it's not like he all of a sudden magically took like this pill that it was like, plop, now I'm a good football player.
He didn't Space Jam it.
Yeah, like it's not like he's drinking Michael Jordan's secret water, right? He's still Ryan Tannehill. It's just the difference is versus Miami and here is now he has a run game.
He also has a competent coaching staff.
Right, and he doesn't need to throw the ball 40 times a game. He can rely on the fact that his running game is going to be able to get at a minimum 4 yards a carry, if not more. And the fact that the pressure is off of him and he can just make plays that are open now shows that he's a comparable quarterback. So Mike Vrabel is doing a fantastic job. Mm-hmm. I mean, he is the team rallies around him. And then you flip back to Baltimore, and it's like, all right, last year with the Charger game, where Lamar Jackson had to get pulled for Flacco, and now this game, I mean, you don't want to say like the man can't play in big games, but I mean, 2 games in a row, you're 0-2 in the playoffs, and you're the home team in both. Is not a good look.
It's not a good look, but I would almost kind of chalk this one up to maybe a half an asterisk where you look at the Tennessee coaching staff where you got Mike Vrabel as the head coordinator, longtime defensive player for the New England Patriots and captain of the defense and this, that, and the other. Defensive-minded guy.
Sure.
And then you've got the defensive coordinator over there in Tennessee, Dean Pease, who won 2 Super Bowls, one with the Patriots back when they defeated the Philadelphia Eagles in, I think it was 39, and then with the Baltimore Ravens when they defeated the San Francisco 49ers. So he's got a long history of some pretty good defenses over the years.
Sure.
So yeah, it's not a good look, and yeah, it's not great, but I would also look at, okay, you got 2 great defensive minds over on the Tennessee side that we're probably looking at everything and going, all right, let's take this away.
Well, let me throw something here, too. This is Lamar Jackson's second year in the league?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So this is now his second playoff game that he's done. This is where it's a learning experience that Baltimore and their coaching staff are going to have to work with him on. I'm not saying – I understand your point what you're saying, Coach, is can he win the big games? And right now the answer is no.
It's concerning.
But I think that this is where the coaching staff with Baltimore needs to work with him when going into these games a little more, because obviously they were out schemed in this one. Tennessee did a great job with their coaching, and they neutralized him, even though he still got his yards.
Yeah.
So he still was moving the ball.
143 yards rushing.
Yeah. So what else could you really do? Except they needed to put up points, and they didn't. And you can move the ball up and down the field all you need, but if you're not putting up 7 or 8.
It's concerning because, like you said, at halftime they went into it. Tennessee was up 14-6. I think if we get to another scenario next year, if it's wild card weekend, divisional weekend, whatever it is, and Baltimore's back in the playoffs, and whoever they're playing, if it's Cleveland or if it's the whatever team, and they're at halftime and they're down either 1 score or multiple scores, that's when I'm going to start hitting the panic button, going, maybe he doesn't have this.
Well, that's what we're going to have to find out. But
Hold on. So here's my counterpoint to Pad. Great. That defense sounds great. He absolutely walked. This team walked on everybody they played this year. Mm-hmm. So sure, they might have broke down everything, and Vrabel is probably one of the smartest coaches and all that jazz. But this is the same team that absolutely destroyed New England on Sunday Night Football, and that's Bill Belichick. So, and if you want to talk about somebody who meticulously probably broke down game tape, probably all the way back to when Lamar Jackson was at Louisville, it's that guy. So sure, you know that, but this was the highest scoring offense in the NFL history.
Yeah,
and the highest rushing yards in NFL history.
Right, and
this is one of the most vaunted offensive teams, and they completely stopped their run game. And what they did was they limited the ability of Lamar Jackson to get on the outside and made him a passer. And that's what this team's missing is Hollywood Brown's going to be a very good wide receiver in a few years, but they also needed a guy to pair him with because they don't have an explosive playmaker that can help Lamar Jackson, and Mark Ingram's not the answer either. They need to get somebody in there that can pair with him, that can be another offensive thing because they should have won this game.
Yeah,
365 yards passing.
I got
still
last
really
week and
good
said they were going to win big.
So did I. I agreed with you.
Yeah,
but it's not only is it the fact that they just didn't perform, it's the fact that you have to be able to make the adjustments when they know that things aren't working. And instead of running the read options, they probably should have ran maybe some more bootlegs, some more plays where they got Lamar Jackson on the outside with the ability to run or pass. That would have been able to free him up a little bit more because then the spy would have had to come upfield, which would have left things more open over the middle. And, I mean, you've got the drive that they did the best on was the drive where they ran up tempo.
Yep.
And they tired out the Tennessee pass rush and linebackers. So maybe you should have ran a little more up tempo and got things downfield a little bit more. And, I mean, I don't want to be the cliche guy that says he's not a pocket passer because, you know, he does have the ability to throw. It's just the difference when you talk about like a guy like Russell Wilson who was brought in and was also a run-first kind of quarterback to them sitting here and saying, like, listen, you need to go through your reads and your progressions before the play breaks down and runs versus a guy who one thing goes wrong and they bail out of the pocket. You know, that was Steve Young's MO too. Like that's these guys' mentality with the athleticism that they have. Right, it's their instinct. What you have to teach them and what they need to do in Baltimore this offseason is, all right, the play's breaking down, but where's read 2? Where's read 3? Where's your progressions? And then, all right, nothing's there. Then getting outside the pocket. Michael Vick in Philadelphia, I think, is the perfect game tape that they need to break down. Because, his athleticism did taper off a little bit from what it was when he was in Atlanta. But he still had the ability that when the play break down, you knew that he was running. But he got through all of his progressions before he got there. And that's what Lamar Jackson needs to do. He's got to get through everything on the field first, then be a run next.
So he might even be able to call up Vic and work with him in the offseason. And
Yeah.
To springboard off
it would be smart to do.
Yeah, and to springboard off of your comment with the offense, they won't have one of the most dynamic and prolific offenses we've seen in many years. And it almost brings to mind, you know, with the Patriots in 2007, where Tom Brady was almost completing passes and throwing touchdowns at will, thinking it's in the end zone touchdown. Got to the Super Bowl, didn't matter. Same thing can be said here. You know, Lamar Jackson running all over the field, first downs and touchdowns at will. Blanking up past the defense and into the secondary, got in the playoffs, didn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, I think it just goes to show, okay, the stats and the records and everything you set in the regular season are great and they're awesome. And, you know, if you get an award for it, definitely put it in the trophy case, put it on the mantle. But when it comes playoff time, nobody cares. The other teams don't care. They don't bat an eyelash at it because this is the playoffs. This is a reset. This is, hey, you know, like we said with Green Bay going up against San Francisco this coming week, ignore the first game. Doesn't matter. Same can be said. I don't know offhand if Baltimore played Tennessee earlier this year, but if they didn't matter.
No, playoffs are a whole different animal. So Tennessee is the hot team right now, and you have to be worried if you're facing them in the AFC Championship. As for Baltimore, Lamar Jackson still has some work to do, and he had a great regular season. You can't take anything away from that. And I know there was a couple posts I was hearing about some rumblings of some players that were blaming Lamar on the loss.
No,
That's stupid.
I'm sorry. Yeah, if you're blaming Lamar Jackson about that loss, you need to leave the team.
I just his ability to make plays happen with his feet is tremendous. It's just the problem is, and what happened to this game is when you run that much, you chew up clock. So you're almost beating yourself because you're extending the play, you're running around, you're circling.
Yeah.
Instead of a play that was supposed to be like a 7-step drop back, get the ball out deep, it's either complete or incomplete. If it's complete, then all right, you're rushing up to the line. Maybe 5-6 seconds happens in between that catch and when you snap the next ball. And then, if it's incomplete, obviously the clock stops, so now you have a full 40 seconds to game plan. But instead, when you're running around trying to extend the play, 10, 15, 20 seconds, then you get to the line. You got to call your next set. The rest of the players got to get back on the line of scrimmage, so you're almost probably 20, 30, 35, 40 seconds into the clock. So you've almost wasted a minute just on that one play alone that was only supposed to take 7 to 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, and on the flip side of that also, there are certainly plays that you can look back if you watch the whole game over again. And if only Lamar Jackson had done this.
Right.
Done that. But there's an infinite number of other factors that go into it that factor that, if a defensive end got through the line, if only that offensive lineman had made the block and not letting the defensive player get through. If only that receiver was able to beat the secondary guy. If only X, Y, and okay, yeah, there might be a couple passes where legitimately, Lamar should have done X or Y. But like I said, there's an infinite number of things that factor into it.
I mean, we're going to talk about him in the next game, but a perfect example of that is Deshaun Watson. How he gets outside of the pocket and his head is still upfield. Instead of just I'm going to put the ball down, I'm going to go. It's, that play that he made against Buffalo where he was dead to rights, but still got outside and still made a pass downfield for 26 yards. That's the kind of play that Lamar Jackson needs to make. That's the kind of play that Steve Young learned that ended up leading them to the Super Bowl against San Diego. Formerly San Diego. Screw off. They were San Diego at the time.
Go Chargers.
Yeah, go Chargers. That's the play that Russell Wilson learned that led them to the Super Bowl victory. I mean, that's the type of play that these quarterbacks that are at that upper elite level can make instead of having to rely fully on their feet to do. And I mean, lastly, just the one more point that I wanted to make is I don't think that Lamar Jackson's not going to be successful.
Yeah.
It's just that's what he needs to do. And blaming him, like you guys said, is a disservice to the performance that he put on all year because this team does not make it to where they are today without him being their quarterback.
Exactly.
And on the flip side of it, Tennessee is a very, very good team, is very hot right now, and very scary going into an AFC championship game that if I was Kansas City, I would be concerned about.
And they definitely are going to have their hands full next week because, as Coach has alluded to, Kansas City will be hosting that game. Now, let me ask Dog a question. Dog, do you play Madden?
Yes.
Have you ever put in a cheat code on easy level?
Probably not, no. But that's what that Sunday game was like. It was like I didn't know what was going on.
This was the wildest game of the weekend, and I am with Dog. I had no idea what the hell was going on with this game. But, Pad, you have the stats. Break it down. This is not a typo what Pat is reading, too. I just want to prove this.
Yeah. So Kansas City ended up defeating the Houston Texans by the final score of 51-31. Patrick Mahomes, 23 of 35 for 321 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Deshaun Watson, 31 of 52 for 388 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And I want to make note, something that isn't in the box score, you're not going to read this anywhere. Kansas City scored so much that the stadium actually ran out of fireworks to shoot off when they score.
Yeah. This was insane. Dog, do you have any comments on this?
You can come back to me.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. This is embarrassing. Houston, Bill O'Brien, you should be embarrassed. You should be pissed. This game literally fell on Bill O'Brien's plate for him to win, and he just blew it. And the biggest thing that I will say is, and the play that really changed everything was that fake punt.
Yeah.
That fake punt, I mean, I understand the idea behind it because Kansas City's offense was starting to click. They were starting to get some momentum. You're hoping to be able to extend the drive a little bit further to be able to keep them off the field. You know, the old they can't score if they're not on the field type mentality. But when you went for it on that fourth down in your own territory, you literally gave the game back to Kansas City. Yeah. And that was the momentum change. That's when it went from, you know, teetering back and forth between Houston and Kansas City and was full Kansas City.
Mm-hmm. No, Houston had them dead to rights. I mean, 21-0 after the first quarter. I thought about turning the game on, looked at the score on my phone and went, oh, that game's over. And then lo and behold, Kansas City comes back and scores 28 points in the second quarter. That, you know, Houston had them dead to rights. That, you know, I was reading an article, it was either last night or this morning, where they were so defeated and ready to give up that I believe it was Sammy Watkins was sitting on the sidelines just upset and pissed and every negative emotion you can think of. And Travis, I believe it was Travis Kelce, came over to him and essentially told him, pick your head up, kid. We're not done yet. That and I'm sure that wasn't the only instance of a player on the Kansas City side of the field going, oh, we're out of this one.
Dog, are you ready yet, or you still want some time? I know it's a lot to digest.
I think the game changed on that when they went for the field goal. Actually, because he kind of what. And I know you should probably take the points, but if you're up that head, you probably should go on. It was like 4th and inches too. So I think just from then on, I just felt that the game flipping that much.
No, I agree. And like I said, there's a lot to digest because when Houston is up 24-0 in the second quarter, 9 out of 10 times it's a wrap.
9.5 times out of 10, I would say.
Yeah, game over, done deal. Patrick Mahomes is a freak of nature.
What was it he supposedly said on the halftime? Let's go have some fun.
Yeah,
it was something to that effect. Like they were down 24-0, and supposedly he told teammates on the sideline, "Let's go have some fun."
The swagger he had with this game, and to let alone light up a very good Texans defense that badly in the second quarter alone to take the lead 28-24, and that's at halftime. To then drop another 23 on them is astounding. And it shows that this offense, when it's clicking, is damn near impossible to keep up with. And Kansas City is looking like the favorite going into next weekend. But it's going to be a real test if they can stop Derrick Henry and if they can slow down Mike Vrabel's coaching.
Well, that's going to be the ultimate test. I mean, it's a case of, you know, like we said with Tennessee going into the Baltimore game. Baltimore knew what was coming. You know they're going to feed Derrick Henry the ball 1,000 times. You got to be able to stop it.
And for Houston, you win 4 AFC South titles, and you have nothing to show for it in the playoffs.
Yep. Meanwhile, every other team in that division has at least made it to the championship game.
Yeah.
No, I mean, again, it just falls back to Bill O'Brien's coaching. They were too conservative after that call on the 4th down, and then it was too little too late. And I mean, not even to mention the fact that, you know, Kansas City's offense obviously is going to put up points. I mean, Houston's defense and J.J. Watt coming back was tremendous, but they weren't the same once he came back. You know, trading Clowney, maybe not the best decision because you could tell that pass rush was not the same. I mean, they were serviceable, but they weren't the same.
It wasn't good.
And, I mean, my biggest thing and the takeaway from this game was you cannot count out Kansas City, which you probably should have already known to begin with. And when you were up on them, you should have buried them in it. Now, yeah, you got to take the points there because, I mean, Kansas City stops you and now you're 21-0. Momentum's just going to shift back. So you got to score. And then by the point that Kansas City started to come back in the game, that fake punt went awry, then they scored on that drive. The win was completely out of the Kansas City sails.
Yeah.
Or the Houston sails. I mean, they were done.
Yeah.
You could see it in their eyes.
They were mentally broke.
They had them. They were up 24, and they scored, and they were shook. And it was not the same after that. And, yeah, I mean, in Houston, they were stopping Houston ability to get open and get Hopkins the ball. Will Fuller was non-existent in this game for coming back and hoping that they were going to be able to rely on him. And Kansas City's defense and Steve Spagnuolo, who can't speak high enough again, made the adjustments to stop Houston in the second half, and they were absolutely non-existent. And I can't speak highly enough of Spagnuolo as a defensive coordinator. I mean, Andy Reid obviously is a talented offensive coach, and you know that he's going to be able to coach up his teams. But what Spagnuolo has done with this defense from what they were last year, which was bad, a bad defense with a good offense that they were able to, basically Kansas City's game plan last year was we need to outscore you because we need to pray to God our defense stops you. And if they don't, then we're going to hang 40 on you and hope that you only score 34. But now this defense is able to be right next to their offense. And that's scary when you talk about the fact that their offense is as good as it is.
Yeah. It's a definite scary factor that now it almost looks like they're a complete team on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I would say so.
And going into next week, that's going to be a hell of a fight with Tennessee.
Yeah.
An absolute hell of a fight. For Houston, where do you go from here? Are you going to be Atlanta 2.0?
I mean, they're not going to be Atlanta 2.0 because they didn't go to the Super Bowl up 31-3 and then blow it.
28-3.
28-3. That's not going to be their problem. They're going to be just another team that, like in Dallas Cowboys, they are in the division race every year, and then
very talented.
Very talented, and they make it to the playoffs either in the first round or a bye, and they maybe win one playoff game and then lose in the second. Their second playoff game, whether it's a championship game or a divisional round or the divisional round or the championship game, and they'll never make it to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's a very surreal,
and it's no fault of the players.
No, it's not on the players at all.
And I hate to single out Bill O'Brien because he's done a hell of a job with that team, but they just can't get over the hump.
Yeah, until they do, they're just going to be stuck in mediocrity.
Yep.
I mean, it is what it is.
Literally, you could compare the two Dallas teams. If I told you Dallas's records and everything, you could easily say, oh, that sounds like Houston, and vice versa.
Yeah. So the offseason is going to look very interesting for them, and for next week's playoff games, Tennessee at Kansas City is going to be a fun one to watch.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a very interesting clash because, you're going to have a high-powered defense. Well, a very good defensive coach against a very good offensive coach, and it'll be fun to see.
Yeah, can't wait for that. So let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts about the AFC divisional round games, and who do you like going into the games next week? We definitely want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Have you ever been reading through a stack of comics and thought, maybe I should see what this Arkham Asylum game is all about? Or been playing Marvel vs. Capcom and felt like you were at a real disadvantage since you didn't know who half the characters were? Well, Play Comics is the show for you. I'm Chris, and each episode we take a look at video games based on comic properties and how well they stick to that source material. So whether you know the comics and want to know how all these games work, or you know the games and want to find out where all this craziness came from, go check out Play Comics at playcomics.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
2, 3, 4.
Hey, this is Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling, and you're listening to the ODPH. I didn't mess it up. I thought I would. Right now, back to the guys.
Coming back on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and it is time to talk some UFC.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a crazy fight night coming down this Saturday, UFC 246 in Vegas. And it is the return of one Conor McGregor.
Notorious return of one Conor McGregor.
Yes, one of the most polarizing fighters in all of mixed martial arts history.
I would say not one of the most polarizing figures in all of mixed martial arts history. I would also say in all of sports.
Yeah, he's got to be in that conversation. I mean, Conor has become the face of the UFC in a very short amount of time. If you think about
good
what
or
he
for
started.
worse,
for good goddamn reason too.
Well, you want to break it down?
Champ.
Yeah,
former.
I was going to say.
I mean,
he was the first champ of the UFC.
Damn right.
Taking over the featherweight division and lightweight division, and then he decided to dabble into boxing. And obviously, the long hyped match.
Judge him for it because he wanted to get paid. Ken, like, fuck.
I will judge him for it.
All right.
And wants to go back to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's talked about going back to it.
I mean,
Yeah.
the paydays are there. Do you blame him?
I mean, the spectacle leading up to the Floyd Mayweather Conor McGregor, fight was something to see, and I don't regret watching that. I mean, I remember in the early days of the show, we had the pressers because the pressers just happened to land on the days we were recording. We'd have the pressers on mute while we were recording, and in between segments, we'd unmute it and listen, and it was must see television. That being said, the boxing match was a hot piece of garbage that I regret watching.
Yeah, we all knew how it was going to go down. We broke that down on past episodes. You can go through the catalog and hear that.
Very disrespectful right now, guys, and I don't appreciate it.
And obviously, with his history with Nate Diaz, I mean, Conor has just accelerated his stardom in the UFC. Obviously, there's been some off-the-cage issues, I guess we'll say, that has kind of prevented him from getting back into contention. And obviously, his last fight in the UFC was to Khabib in UFC 229, which was the malice after the fight.
Yeah.
And just obviously suspensions handed out all around. Khabib was infamously jumping into the crowd to go after somebody from Conor's
Shame on
team.
him.
So trying to look like a wrestler in the WWE, clearing the top rope.
Yeah, there's just that sight of him jumping out was just stands out. Just how absolutely
terribly unprofessional of him. Shame.
Just batshit crazy that night was.
Yeah, shame.
Because I remember we were down in New York Comic Con.
Yeah, we couldn't see the fight because of outside existential circumstances, and we all woke up the next morning to the headlines in the news, and we went, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, what happened? And just seeing everything going on. So Conor has not fought for 2019, so he's been off an entire year. However, one fight has now brought him back to the table.
Yep.
And that is one fight against, dare I say, a hero amongst many, many UFC and MMA fans. Mr. Anytime, Anyplace, Anywhere.
The man getting his own can, a Budweiser.
Yeah, so
that's being sold in Vegas.
If you're in the Vegas area, there's a limited edition Budweiser can.
This is a fact.
This is true, dog. We are trying to find some on eBay to maybe get to you.
So cool.
I haven't seen it, but I do know that it was shown to him that it's this special designed can that is being sold in Vegas only this week and this weekend for one Cowboy Cerrone.
Donald Cowboy Cerrone is returning on a 2-fight losing streak, however. This fight is going to be at welterweight, so is a step up for Conor. Cowboy fluctuates between both weights, so obviously Coach has got a lot to say about this. Dog has a lot to say about this, so we'll let Dog go first. Dog, how you see this fight ending up?
I think it'll be definitely an interesting fight. I think the styles match up probably perfect for our Cowboy, and I expect fireworks. So,
there'll absolutely be fireworks.
I think they're going to be it. I think that in many interviews this week, Cowboy said there's no chances of going to the ground. He wants to stand up with him. Coach, the floor is yours.
I just want to see a Conor McGregor in a solid mental headspace. That's what I want to see first.
Does such a thing exist?
Sure. From the interviews that he's had with Ariel and just the stuff that have been shown on Embedded, the YouTube series that UFC puts out, he seems like a guy right now who is understanding, the choices that he's made before and has not necessarily remorse for those things, but has accepted them and realized that so many things happen so fast that he's able to move on. So I'm expecting a Conor that's going to come out to this fight who is going to understand what is in front of him and what it means moving forward. He's taking the fight at 170, which he didn't need to do because Cerrone would have fought him at any weight because that's how bad he wanted the fight. Conor accepted the 170 thing, which for me makes me a little bit nervous because from that interview that he had with Ariel, he is under 170 right now, which is not anything you want to hear for a fighter fighting at that weight class. You want to hear that he's over that weight, And for Conor's career, this is important because if he loses this fight, his credibility is going to be greatly diminished, especially if it's anywhere from a knockout to a submission. any one of those is going to basically just plummet him down to the point where, yeah, he's still going to be a name draw, but I don't necessarily see him being able to headline a fight against a guy who has a 2-fight losing streak and still have it be national media.
Mm-hmm.
So for him, and I mean, then I think it would force him back to 155, and he just wouldn't have a choice. If he wanted to fight again, it would be you're fighting at 155 or you're not fighting at all. So I'm apprehensive. Like I'm very nervous. I want to see a great performance out of both guys. I mean, not to say that I don't. I mean, I like Cerrone. You have to respect him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for what he's done for the fight game. I mean, willing to take any fight on the drop of the dime, willing to step in for injured fighters, and willing to take these last minute fights, and the success that he's had. The most wins in UFC history. Yada yada yada. The accolades go on and on and on. So you cannot diminish his accomplishments. But I mean, I'm a Conor guy at the end of the day, and I hope for Conor to win, and I hope him to win in a dominant fashion where he can be catapulted back up into the rankings of, a title fight, whether it's with Khabib or, if he really wants to chase this Masvidal fight, then so be it. Not that I want to see him take that fight, but if it is to be, let it be.
Pad, what you got?
This is a make or break fight for Conor. And I say that he wants to talk and say he's one of the best of all time, and he's the best of all time. That remains to be seen. Talent-wise, in ring-wise, yeah, you can have that conversation. But right now, I would say he's one of the best on the mic. And in the annals of, MMA history, that don't mean squat. When you talk about the greatest of all time, you're usually not basing your rankings, based off of how they are on the mic. Yes, he's one of the best in the octagon, but, go on a run. Prove me wrong on this, because you look back at his record. Okay, he was fighting pretty consistently back in 2015 with the UFC, and he lost to Nate Diaz in March of 2016. But then he came back and he beat Nate again. He beat Nate, and then he beat Eddie Alvarez, and then he had the whole run with boxing and all that. Okay, fine. Then he lost to Khabib, and that was in October of 2018. Did nothing all of 2019. Go on a run. If you are able to beat Cerrone, congratulations to you, sir. I'm still not going to cement you as one of the best of all time just because you came back and won a fight. Mm-hmm. Go on a run. Now, I'm not saying an Anderson Silva run where he's dominating a division for 10 years or even a Jose Aldo run, but go on a run. Win multiple fights. Win multiple bonuses. Fight of the night. Performance of the night. Win multiple titles. Then I will sit here and go, you're one of the best of all time. But if you continue to do this, I'm going to fight a guy, win or lose, and then I'm going to go off and do other things just to improve my checking account and my bank account and add a couple more commas to it and buy a couple more Ferraris and a couple more Lamborghinis and a couple more fur coats. I'm sorry, if you go off and do this other stuff, fine and dandy, but it's not doing anything for me in terms of your greatest of all time status.
Yeah. For me, this is, like Pat iterated, this is make or break for Conor.
You could argue his legacy is hanging on by a thread right now.
Well, I would say yes and no. I do agree that for here on out, he needs to start winning in the cage and be consistent in the cage.
Because it's a case of what have you done for me lately?
Right, and that's the problem. Before, he was the darling of the UFC. Everybody loved seeing him at pressers, but he was having the bad boy image, so to speak, showing up late, having the water bottle incident for the Diaz conference, stealing the belt from Jose Aldo and causing a near riot when he did that there.
Showing up late to weigh-ins and almost blowing the fights in terms of the fight not happening.
Right. Obviously, the image is everything. Perception is reality. When Conor gets in the cage, he's always been a different fighter. And when he became champ, and we can't take that away from him. He is the first dual champion in UFC history that when he won both belts at the same time. For this fight, though, I mean, obviously there is a lot on the line. He needs to show that he has changed. There's been enough off-cage incidents that have really put a stain on his image. And obviously you can go through and Google search all those. He's been off. The whole ordeal with Khabib and his camp and the suspension from the Brooklyn incident weighs heavy on him.
Mm-hmm.
In the Ariel Helwani interviews this week, like Coach has touched upon, Conor does sound like a changed man. Like maybe it's finally sunk in, which I hope for his sake it has. And then if he wants to still be the face of the franchise, he needs to win this fight. After that, he can almost call his own shot per se. The big fight that people want to see, and I think would be a very, very bad fight for him, is him against Jorge Masvidal. I think that it would be a ratings and box office winner. I think the pay-per-view buys would be through the roof.
Yeah.
But I think Conor would get absolutely destroyed.
He doesn't want anything with Masvidal.
No.
Game Bread would wreck him.
And any nonsense with him and Usman, forget about it. Usman will destroy
God,
him.
no, please.
Yeah. Conor needs to stay at 155. The 170, I don't get, and I think he is a small 170 in that division. He cannot stay there. Do this fight with Cerrone. Cerrone would have fought you at any weight class. Why you're not fighting at 155, I'm a little puzzled by, but I digress. If he wins this fight, he can call a shot. I know he wants a rematch with Khabib. I don't think he deserves one. He got mauled. Win a couple fights against the top of the 155 division, then we can talk about it. But if you won't get in the cage against Justin Gaethje, you're wasting my time. And I think Gaethje will absolutely destroy Conor too. Can Conor win this fight? Yes. Do I think he's going to win this? No.
Ooh, interesting.
I am taking Donald Cerrone.
Okay.
I think the one thing that is going to play a huge factor in this is Cerrone steps up for fights in this case. I know that he's had a history of being a choke artist when it comes to title fights, but this one has been a different one for him. The hype is there. Can he step up to the occasion? I think he can. I think that he's going to be more comfortable at 170 to fight Conor. Do I see this going to be a knockout? No.
No.
I see this being split decision. I truly do. But I like Cerrone in this.
I don't appreciate your disrespect.
You don't have to.
Okay.
I'm saying Conor needs to show me he can go in there and make a statement fight. Cerrone's not that guy, though. I just don't think. But if Conor does lose this and it goes to split decision, if he starts looking like the Conor of old, then we can start talking about what can you do at 155.
That's the thing. We talk about it with wrestling. We talk about it with MMA, the octagon rust, the ring rust. That training and sparring is fine, but it doesn't equate to what you actually experience when it comes to the gates closed on the octagon, and whoever ends up reffing goes, "You ready? You ready? Go." It's an entirely different animal. Conor hasn't fought since the 6th of October, 2018. I won't figure out how many days it's been since then. You can do that on your own time. Donald Cerrone has been fighting consistently since I was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
And that was, 14 years ago.
Yeah, he fights at a pace that when he gets done with a fight, he immediately goes to Dana and goes, who's next?
There might be some ring rust with Conor. There sure as shit ain't any ring rust with Donald Cerrone.
No, the only thing that will be a factor in Cerrone is obviously his last two fights, he's taken a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm.
He got knocked out by Gaethje. He got mauled by Ferguson.
Yeah.
What kind of?
Well, Ferguson was the doctor stoppage too.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That was the fluke.
But Ferguson started turning it on at the end. Cerrone is nearing the end of his career. I'm sorry to say, dog. I'm just saying he's at that age where this is starting to add up on him.
36 years old and a lot of tread on the tires.
Yeah.
This is going to be his 50th professional fight.
Oh,
Jesus.
So, yeah, you do the math.
Yeah. That being said, Conor could win this, and you know what? He might. I'm not saying this is going to be a walk in the park.
No, for either fighter.
I just think Cerrone knows that this could be the last big fight he has. And I think that, like any Western movie, the Cowboy is going to come out for one last ride and leave it all in the cage. That's why I say this is going to be a split decision.
Well, I'm going to be draped in my Irish flag. I'm going to be talking a lot of shit going into that fight, just like Conor would be. I will represent my... Well, I mean, I wish I was Irish, from Ireland, but, here I am. But whatever, like, I'm going to be repping my countrymen all night long that night. I might even watch a little Boondock Saints, get an Irish accent going, and come in here and just talk tons of crazy shit.
Wherever we're watching the fight, are you going to come in blaring Dropkick Murphys?
I might. I'm definitely, I already told my wife that I will be taking the Irish flag from the house, and I will be wearing it like a goddamn cape.
That'll be your intro music.
We might have to get a photo with us.
Yeah,
please do.
We might have to post it on the Instagram page.
You already got mine.
Oh, we already know you.
Oh, yeah.
He's going Cerrone.
All day.
Pat, official pick?
Cerrone.
Wow. All right, guys, go ahead. Yeah, I already told you the story, Ken, of when I was a young man. I had some friends over watching the Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin WrestleMania, and I was the only Shawn Michaels fan in the room. And Shawn Michaels lost, and all of them, they celebrated and they basked in my sadness to the point where it made me, as a young man, cry. But guess what, motherfuckers? I ain't doing that this time because McGregor is going to win this fight. And then he's going to move on, and he's going to face Masvidal, and then that will be scary. And I won't talk as much shit, and I will pray that Masvidal will ease up on Conor, and because he has kids and a wife or a girlfriend or fiance, whatever she is today, and he will show leniency and take it easy on him.
We'll have to find out this Saturday night. ESPN Plus, wherever you watch your UFC fights, is going to have it. Conor is currently a favorite on the Vegas line right now.
Okay.
Yeah, goddamn right he is.
So we'll have to see what happens Saturday.
Home advantage.
Now I might want to take Cowboy here.
Oh, wait.
I mean, Vegas is favored him. Hey, listen. I mean, money talks.
Like I said, we'll have Coach's intro music and maybe the entrance. Maybe we'll see if we can get like a TikTok going for that on Saturday.
Maybe we can get a cameo with Charlie Weiss.
Fuck you. Wow. You are just not a nice person.
On that note, hit us up, #ODPH. What is your thoughts about Conor McGregor's return this Saturday? Are you taking him in the win, or is it going to be Cowboys night? We definitely want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the True Crime Lab, a show from Jay and Rude Boy about true crime.
Join us as we cover topics like notable and unknown crimes, serial killers, cults, white-collar crimes, the occult, aliens, the Hamburglar, killer clowns from outer space, haters of Monty Python, the Irish.
Jay, dude.
With deep dives into stories, narratives, and thorough research, we hope you learn something new about even the most discussed cases.
We never make fun of the victim or the victim's families, but we sure as heck make fun of the criminals. Because, well, they deserve it. We'll be covering topics each week, so you'll always have something fresh to listen to.
We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, and everywhere else you get your stories.
As we traverse this crime-laden world, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review to let us know what you think about our show.
So enter the True Crime Lab with true friends talking about true crime.
This is Rich, the host of the Three Fat Nerds podcast and co-host of the Horror Zone 607 podcast, and you are listening to our #607 podcast brothers, the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. Now kick it back over to Ken Moneybags and the crew.
Coming back to talk a little national championship football here on the ODPH podcast. Last night as we recorded, college football's champion of the season was crowned. Pad, you got that story?
Yeah, so you had the number 1 ranked LSU Tigers taking on the number 3 ranked Clemson Tigers down in New Orleans, Louisiana. Essentially, I know it's supposed to be a game on neutral field, but stadium's 82 damn miles away from LSU's campus, so it was a home game for LSU. And LSU ended up winning by the final score of 42-25. Joe Burrow, 31 of 49 for 463 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Trevor Lawrence, 18 of 37 for 234 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions.
Coach, your thoughts on that score here?
I mean, what can you say anything about Joe Burrow any more than you already have? My God, the man is amazing. I mean, I'm speechless about his performance because they came out in this game and looked terrible offensively for the first few drives. Clemson was getting pressure on him. He was unable to throw the ball, and their defense was all over the field. And it was weird because Clemson kept trying, or LSU, kept trying to throw these like quick 5-yard hitches and these 6 yards, 7 yards outs and all these like quick patterns, but they weren't able to get the ball. I mean, the coverage by Clemson was so tight that by the time the ball got there, the defender was there. So once they started stretching the field and throwing those deep balls, and Burrow was able to put the ball right in the pocket And then from there, once they were able to throw the deep ball, then the underneath stuff started to open up. That's when the game changed. And that was midway, I want to say, through the second quarter that they were able to do it. Then, not even to mention the 3rd and 19, where they run a draw play with 17 seconds left to go on the clock and no timeouts. And not only does he get the first down, but he gets out of bounds. I was like drooling. I had a puddle of drool underneath me watching this man's performance. Cincinnati, you are blessed by getting this man to fall on your lap here. Insane. I mean, you can't mess this pick up. You just can't. You have to take him. And and then Clemson on the other flip side of it, I don't think there's a team that I dislike more than Clemson.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, not only from what they did in Notre Dame the year before, but just the arrogance and the cockiness that they had. Trevor Lawrence is probably my least favorite player in college football until he becomes a New York Giant next year. Then I will love him. But for the time being, I despise his guts. He's tough as nails. I'm not going to discredit that. I mean, the kid will take a lick and keep coming back. But what a goon he is with that California haircut, not even being from California, first off. Secondly, Dabo Swinney is the biggest pile of shit I've ever listened to in a halftime press conference. Not even able to name players on the other team that you're facing, and then just, no, we came out sloppy. We look terrible. The performance that we're putting on right now, like his whole halftime press conference just rubbed me the wrong way. And I mean, listen, I am a diehard Notre Dame fan, but and I love Brian Kelly, but I love Ed Orgeron. That man is a saint in my eyes. I know he is probably the most backdoor recruiter in all of college football, probably next to Nick Saban, breaking the most rules, and I don't give a shit. Give me more Ed Orgeron. Give me more.
I loved his appearance on SportsCenter after the game was over, and Scott Van Pelt was interviewing him, and he brought up the fact that the game's in New Orleans and it's a party in New Orleans on any night of the week, but this isn't any regular night of the week, and he asked what he'd be doing after the game. And I loved his response. It wasn't, I'm going to go out with some of the coaches and have a celebratory drink and then go home and rest up a little bit. No, it was, I'm going to go home with my wife. I got my wife and 3 boys, for the week, and I'm going to go home and have a ham sandwich.
Goddamn right.
That was the greatest thing I've ever heard.
And it would probably end it with Go Tigers.
Having been to New Orleans and having been down Bourbon Street, it is a party every night of the week. It doesn't have. I know it's got the Mardi Gras stereotype, and it's very, valid. But it's Mardi Gras every night of the week there, so I would not fault him for going to partying. But the fact that he's like, I'm going to go home and have a ham sandwich. That was it. Like, I'm gonna go out to dinner. I'm gonna have a nice meal, nice steak dinner, nice T-bone steak, whatever. No, I'm gonna go home and have like a ham sandwich from Subway.
This is the man who brought a thing of crawfish and was late to a recruiting visit because he brought a bucket of crawfish on the recruiting visit.
Yeah.
I mean, shit. Like, come on.
Yeah, he is absolutely incredible. Dog, you have any feelings on this game?
I watched some of it.
Well, the game was on at 8 o'clock, so, I mean, it didn't end until almost 12:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the East Coast, it was a little rough watching that.
Yeah. I watched most of it. I hadn't really followed much of college football all year besides Nebraska, so it was a good game.
Yeah, that's all you can really say about this. Like, for me, Burrow is the real deal. And as long as Cincinnati can get him an offensive line around him,
he doesn't need that. He doesn't even need an offensive line.
Yeah,
you saw pressure in his face and what he was able to do.
I'm just saying pros are a lot different than college.
Sure.
Yeah.
But so is he's also a different breed of quarterback.
We've heard that before, but we got to see.
Like I say, I think, though, he needs an offensive line around him. But will he be manageable in Cincinnati? Absolutely. And LSU, like I say, the resurgence of that program, you got to tip your hat to him.
I have a couple things I want to bring up before we whatever we got to do, but I don't need to get to it yet. But the one thing I do want to talk about is that the promo video that they did with The Rock, where they talked about the fact that this program did hit rock bottom because when Les Miles left, it fell shaky. It was shaky.
Oh, it fell off. No,
yeah. No, sure. I mean, it fell off. I mean, it was. there was bad times. And I mean, they took a guy who, and this is one of the points that I want to bring up. USC fires Ed Orgeron after going 6-2. The players, and this as a Notre Dame fan, I am loving saying this. The players at USC were begging them to keep Ed Orgeron. They were begging him. They were 6-2. They were playing hard under him. They had won some games that they had no business being in under that, at that time, and they loved playing for him. And they fire him because he wasn't sexy enough. He wasn't the name. He wasn't the face that they wanted representing USC and guys, and parents and living rooms.
He wasn't the guy they could put on a billboard in southern Los Angeles that everyone go, oh, look at that guy.
Exactly. Yeah. He wasn't that. Fired. Goes to LSU. Becomes the defensive line coach there. Obviously, they fire the next coach at LSU, and in comes Ed Orgeron as the interim coach. And he, from that point on, turned that program around. But USC, since firing Ed Orgeron, has had 4 different head coaches in that time, and it has been an absolute flux to the point that they are being out-recruited by Tulane in the rankings. That's right, everybody. Tulane had a higher recruiting class, this class for 2020, than the USC Trojans.
Damn.
And as a Notre Dame fan, I love it. I love it. I love seeing Ed Orgeron be down there, embracing the LSU spirit. I mean, the guy's from, went to LSU for a year, was a coach there before, and he took this exactly what that promo video talked about. He took this program from rock bottom, and he built it up to what it is today, and part of it was luck. I mean, Joe Burrows fell in his lap. They were very lucky to be able to get him. Obviously, was at Ohio State, a highly touted recruit. And, once Fields transferred out from Georgia and, he went in the transfer portal himself, LSU was able to wrap him up. And, I mean, I had friends who was an LSU fan last year who told me that Joe Burrow was going to be the real deal. And I saw the game against Texas that they played last year, and I thought to myself, yeah, he looks good, but I don't think he's great, and I mean, here he is this year, a whole year under his belt after not playing for 2 seasons, his redshirt junior year last year. Now his redshirt senior year, and this guy is absolutely the number 1 pick in the draft, hands down.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah, you can't argue that with the performance he did and getting all his receivers involved. I mean, Chase and Jefferson had huge games. Thaddeus Moss had a stellar
Who's
game
a tight end.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. When I saw him, I'd watched the SEC title game and watched their first playoff game, but didn't really pay attention to where Thaddeus Moss was lining up. And then when I saw him on a play and then they had said he was a tight end, I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's absolutely wild. I mean, this whole game just had so much going on, too, storyline-wise, that Trevor Lawrence obviously was going into this game. If he won this, like I said last week, he was going to be solidifying his legacy. And now, I mean, it's got a little blemish on it, but Clemson will still be fine for next year.
I mean, he's only lost 1 game in 6 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And 1 game. I mean, that's high school all the way to college.
Yeah.
As a freshman, lost 1 game.
But how will he handle the adversity?
yeah, right?
Yeah, he'll be just fine. And, I mean, Travis Etienne, he had a great game, too, for Clemson. So
yeah, he's another guy that, so outside of the LSU wide receiver, who I also like, and then Simmons, the Clemson linebacker, who we were talking about before the show, I absolutely got, a little excited about, because that's a hell of a fucking football player.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a man's man right there. He lined up as safety for some snaps. He lined up as an inside linebacker for some snaps. He lined up as an outside linebacker. He lined up in the nickel. And then when I saw that he took 4 snaps on the offensive line, oh my God. I was like, the Giants need to draft this dude now.
Yeah.
Bypass whatever rules you need to bypass and draft this dude today, because he is the exact player that this defense needs. You talk about a jack of all trades when you talk about that San Francisco defense. This dude is that.
Yeah. No, he played out.
He had 2 pressures. He had 2 pressures coming from. He's a guy who's only probably 6'2", 215, 220, and he was beating tackles to get pressures on Joe Burrows. That's nuts. And then, the LSU wide receiver, tremendous. Jefferson, great performance the first half. He had 100-plus yards in the first half alone with 2 touchdowns. That's first-round draft pick.
Yeah,
all
Jamar
day.
Chase. Jamar Chase, yeah.
Jamar Chase, yeah. And then Travis Etienne. Unfortunately, the running back position is not valued at what it is for a guy who is serviceable.
Mhm.
But you want to talk about a guy built in Derrick Henry's mold.
Yeah.
That's this man, because he runs violent. I mean, there was points where LSU players weren't even trying to tackle him because of how hard he was hitting them. And from a very young age, it was instilled in me when I was playing modified football that it is harder to tackle somebody than it is, like, as a running back, your mentality needs to be, it is harder for them to tackle you than it is for you to hit them. So they're more scared to hit you than you are to hit them. That's exactly the way that this guy runs, and it's violent, and it's exactly what you need on your team in the NFL.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, a lot of good players are going to be entering the NFL from this game. And for next season, I mean, you got to like both teams. You got to like where they're growing.
Oh,
yeah,
whoa,
absolutely.
Whoa. Let's hold on. All right, so this is my last point that I want to bring up, because this national title game was not just a win for LSU. No, guys. This was a win for Notre Dame, who has a 2-bowl win streak against LSU. So let's put that out there. All right, let's just remind everybody about that. The Music City Bowl, where Notre Dame was down to LSU, and in comes Ian Book and the rise that he had. All right, let's not forget that. But no, seriously, LSU will be okay next year. Losing Joe Burrows is going to be devastating. Obviously, Clemson is going to be right back where they were. They had a cupcake schedule because the ACC was awful, so bad. The Pac-12 was bad, but the ACC was right there with them. So, I mean, they'll be right there. And then Ohio State. Justin Fields is going to be back. They're going to have that defense back. They'll have one more year under their belt. I would project them to be my early favorite going into next year. And Alabama. You know, Tua going down mid-season. I know.
Listen, I can't tell you how much it warmed my heart for the shot of Nick Saban on the sidelines looking pissed as all hell.
But
it warmed my heart.
They'll be back next year. Losing Tua mid-year really, and the starting linebacker in the beginning of the season, like literally the first game, that really, I think, hurt Alabama more than probably they would have liked to have let on. The linebacker came back and said that he was going to return to college next year. Tua obviously already announced that he's leaving, so it will be interesting to see what they do at the quarterback position, but they're still going to have the skilled players on the outside that will bring them back. And fuck it, I'll say it. I like Notre Dame. Don't give a shit. Argue with me. Don't care. I like their chances. They played very well in the bowl game against Iowa State. They have a bunch of skilled players coming back. Ian Book is going to be back next year. The defense is going to be back. Kyle Hamilton will have a bigger role defensively, who was a hell of a freshman free safety / nickel corner, played linebacker too, did everything. Love him coming back. The offensive line is all coming back minus one guy. They got a 5-star. They got a top 10 class in 2020, and I'm excited for next year. I can't wait. I'm sad they kick off in Dublin against Navy. I'm turning this into a Notre Dame subject thing. I don't give a shit. Come at me. I'm excited. I can't wait for next year. I hate when college football ends. It's my saddest time of year. I know it means college lacrosse is right around the corner, but I miss Saturdays. I miss college football because now we only have 4 weeks. Kind of, I'm putting quote marks up in the air to Ken, like anybody can see me do this. We only got 4 weeks left of football, guys.
Yeah.
And then it's done. And then it's pad and baseball. I mean, so that's what you got to look forward to.
Until the XFL.
Hey! And that's the other thing.
We got XFL.
Let's talk a crazy thing I saw online. I think I sent you guys.
Chad Ochocinco.
It's coming for a kicker position, yes, which is awesome. But Trevor Lawrence... I read this crazy idea out there that Trevor Lawrence, who really does have no business coming back to college next year because he has already proved the fact that he is of an elite level, doesn't need to come back to college. What if he goes in the XFL?
No way.
I know there's no way, but my God. I mean, could you imagine?
No, because I just don't see it happening. That would be freaking insane. Because especially if he wants to get to the NFL, going to play 1 year in the XFL, I mean,
it might be able to inflate his draft stock if it already isn't as high as it can get because he's not going to be playing against the elite level of talent that you're going to get in the NFL. It's going to be the cast-offs and the rejects that the NFL didn't pick up. So he's going to light them up
as long as he takes an insurance policy for injury.
For him, I think this is just the next. This is the evolution that we're seeing in the NBA right now. With guys, now bypassing college, going to Europe and Australia to play. I mean, look what it's done for LaMelo Ball, who was an afterthought in this draft. I mean, he wasn't even projected to be a first pick, and now or even a first round pick. Now he's literally the first pick.
Yeah.
So that could really help drive. And what else does he have to prove at the college level? Because the answer is nothing.
No, he's got nothing to prove.
This loss was not because of the fact that Trevor Lawrence played bad. The loss was because LSU was just a really goddamn good football team.
Yeah.
So for him, I mean, obviously, I don't necessarily know that. I don't think that he would need the money, so chasing that isn't necessarily a thing. But for somebody else who may be of that junior tier or maybe that sophomore year, the perfect example would be Maurice Clarett, who obviously his family wasn't not well, and he needed to get paid, and showed the fact that he was of the talent of an elite level that he didn't need to come back to college for his junior year.
Yeah.
Having something like the XFL so he could have brought a paycheck home to provide for his family would have been the perfect thing for him. So maybe eventually we'll see it. I mean, this is the same thing that happened with George Gervin in basketball. Eventually we'll probably see a guy who says, you know what? I'm done putting my body on the line for you. I'm going to get mine and go to the XFL to get paid.
It's a wild take. I mean, anything is possible, and we won't know until we start dipping into the XFL. But to wrap up college football,
great season.
A lot of good memories of some players really stepping up, and it's going to be absolutely wild to see the NFL draft this year.
I can't. Oh man, I can't wait. This draft. It is so deep at quarterback.
Yeah.
It is so talented at that position that, I mean, you could literally see 3 to 4 quarterbacks go in the first round, or you could see 2.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that kind of draft class. I mean, Jalen Hurt is right there. I think he's an elite talent that can definitely play at the next level. And then, obviously, Tua and his story, what will happen there? Joe Burrow, obviously, being the first pick in the draft. Jake Fromm, what will happen with him? Obviously, already declaring and leaving Georgia. I mean, those are 4 quarterbacks. And I even named Justin Herbert at Oregon, who, played well in the Pac-12 title game. Before that, not so much. That game against Arizona played terrible, but in the Pac-12, it played better. So what will happen with him? It's going to be an awesome draft. It'll be an awesome draft class. If you are a fan of a team that is in the top 10, you will have a ton of options.
Absolutely.
That's not even naming the wide receivers and defensive players that are coming.
There's so many storylines we can still talk about. But hit us up on our social media accounts, #ODPH. What is your thoughts about the national championship game? And where do you think college football players are going after that? And what's your early take on next season? We definitely want to have that conversation. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Matt Jane.
This is Julian Hepworth.
I'm Ross Marchuka.
And John McBride, and we're Shot at the Robots. You're listening to
ODPH.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pat, kick us off with that local minute.
Well, local minute, of course, we're talking Binghamton Devils news. Looking at their last couple of games, they are on an actually 6-game win streak right now. They won their game on Wednesday by the final score of 4-3 against the Rochester Americans, and then they won their game on Saturday against the Cleveland Monsters by a final score of 5-2. Looking ahead to their games, they got this coming week. They got a game upcoming on Wednesday, January 15th, again at home against the Cleveland Monsters. Game time 7:05, and then they've got a game on Friday, January 17th, where they're going to travel up to Lehigh to play the Phantoms. Game time 7:05, and then Saturday, January 18th, they return home to play the Syracuse Crunch. More information, binghamtondevils.com.
And now, Coach, I'm turning the mic over to you.
Enough with that. Let's get to the real main event that was Saturday night. The Binghamton Bulldogs versus the Syracuse Stallions. The ABA game to end all the other ABA games. Dog, Ken and I were in attendance at the Dog Pound for this one. The Bulldogs pulling the upset at home. a victory of 126-107 against those Stallions. What a game. What a crowd. What a night.
Dog, you were first time this season in attendance for the Bulldogs. How would you describe that atmosphere?
It was chaos. It was just a good game, and the atmosphere was just electric. It was off the chain and just holy cow.
Yeah,
I mean, I lost my voice midway through the first quarter.
Yeah,
I was out. I mean, I should have probably tipped off the show by apologizing if my voice sounds like shit, because I still have not recovered. I was yelling and it was funny because I had said we had talked about this, and I was like, I want to get to the game early because I don't want to stand for 2 hours. By God, I was standing for 2 hours. And I was like, I'm not going to yell because I didn't want to get that into it. And then I had my buddy showed up, a former Bulldog player, CJ, and him and his brother started chirping. And I said, to hell with it. I'm letting it go. And I mean, I was wild. I definitely broke my vocal cords. I had to apologize to the woman who sat in front of us because I kept kneeing her when I was moving you out of the way, Ken, so I could get closer to yell at the referees for some egregious calls.
Egregious.
And, every time that Derek Hart caught the ball in the paint, I had to let them know that it was a mismatch because you can't cover that man. He's too big. And I listen, I mean, all that aside, and the animosity and the build up to the game and all that garbage aside, that was a fun basketball game to be at. I loved every second of it, from the moment the Bulldogs were down 10 to when all of a sudden they started that comeback, to the lights turning off midway through the game because somebody hit the switch on the St. Patrick's gym. It was just it was a ruckus crowd. It was a great time. The Syracuse fans were having fun. They were great to chirp at, and it was watching Reggie Hawkins, the Bulldogs coach, lose his fucking mind at the end of the game. Pat, you didn't get to see this. This man went just completely off of his rocker at the end of the game.
Okay.
After the thing, he starts fist bumping. He's ripping his tie off. He's showing something on his sock. I had no idea what it was. He walked straight up to the Syracuse bench, the Syracuse sidelines, and pulled up his sock and was like pointing at it like, yeah. And we have no idea what was going on, but he went off of his mind at that point.
Yeah, that was just an awesome game to go to. And I know locally here, I think the only time I've heard a sport game that loud was when the Binghamton Senators were in the Calder Cup finals. And that was 5,000 people at the arena. Plus.
Yeah, I would say the last time, it was probably when the Bulldogs clinched that improbable ABA run. I mean, and the story, like, it was just this. Everything was so perfect. The storyline was there. Jimmy Gray, Kyrie coming back, the whole thing with the Syracuse and how that organization started, and the people that were there in place to start the organization and then abruptly left. Like, all of that was out there, and everybody knew it. And it was public, and that's what made the game that much more intriguing to the Binghamton fans, because of the fact that they knew everything. Yeah. And it's been out there.
Well, for the amount of, and we've talked about this on past episodes too, the amount of trash talk that was going on and the animosity between the teams. And we have this in a blog last year. You can still go on OchoDuroParlayHour.com under Parlay Points, and you can read this. I even said that after last season, Syracuse is Binghamton's number one rival.
Yeah.
There is no question about it at all. And the teams have that personal animosity, and obviously the storylines going on with former players from Binghamton going to Syracuse, and the back and forth on social media to we finally get to game day.
So then the first point was scored by Chris Cartwright. The next point by Syracuse was scored by Jimmy
Gray.
So it was tit for tat. It was there. It was already out there, you know. So the crowd went wild when Chris hit that first shot. The Syracuse went nuts. You know, Syracuse crowd went nuts when Jimmy hit that first shot. So it was already there. The fact that those two hit the first two buckets already just put it that, like, if it was here, like if it was at like a 9 or a 7 before, it brought it up to a 20,000.
Yeah.
Like, that's how big the escalation was.
And like I said, in which Coach was touched upon, Syracuse went on a 12-2 run midway in the second, and Brandon Ingrate hit 7. He scored 17 points, but
those,
most of those
3 threes back to back to back were nuts. I mean, Doug, like I was sitting here in my head like, all right, when they went on that run, here we go.
Yeah.
And Reggie didn't call a timeout, which is credit to him because I'm from that Phil Jackson school of thought that says if a team's going on a run, you leave them on the court and you let them figure it out themselves before you call a timeout.
Right.
Which sometimes can be detrimental because sometimes they go on those runs and your teams can't balance themselves out.
No.
And they did. And Andrade hit those 3 threes and the crowd went nuts. And when they brought it within 1 to end and then go up 2 to end it at halftime, that place was nuts. We were waiting for the second half.
Yeah,
waiting.
The second half was going on. I'm surprised we didn't get thrown out. I thought that was going to happen at one point. We were getting a little wild. No, it's all right.
I definitely, at one point, like when I pushed you to really get it at the ref, I really thought that was going to be the point. I also was very worried when a Syracuse player was getting things, and I was kind of being a little more aggressive in my chirping, because he was saying some vulgar things at St. Patrick's Church, which is not appreciated. This is a family venue, and you cupping your Southern region was not necessary, Mr. Syracuse Stallion.
Yeah.
And I mean, then they had a fan come on the court and talk to the referees. That's when I was like, I was ready to get down. I was like going to go down there and chirp at the refs then, because if anybody could go down there, why can't I?
Yeah.
I'm a damn coach. I could do it.
We have. No, we don't have press credential. I was going to say, but we're kind of known down there.
Yeah, I mean, we should. Why not?
Exactly. Dog was taking in the entire game. He was wilding out in the stands too, though. And it was a great experience to get down there. And like I said, the crowd was into it. There was no after court drama, which was great too.
Well, I mean, there wasn't the after court drama of the necessarily like physical.
Yeah.
But there was definitely
there was that,
after court drama. I mean,
the rematch
again.
Yeah. When the rematch happens, it's
February
gonna be
8th.
Yeah.
Which that was going to be the next thing. So obviously, Binghamton plays on the road against Wyoming this Saturday. It is in Scranton. They have not posted whether it's going to be on line or not. So if you can travel down to Scranton to see the game, I highly recommend you get down there because I'm sure they'd love your support. But they did just announce, the Syracuse Stallions, on their page that the February 8th rematch, which I didn't realize that they were playing again. I thought this was the one and only. They will be playing again on February 8th in Syracuse, was moved to the Onondaga Community College gym to hold more fans. So they will be selling 1,500 tickets that will be online sale only, and the game is February 8th, which is a Saturday, folks.
So definitely stay tuned for that. More information, BinghamtonBulldogs.com.
Or their active Facebook.
Yes, and we also have to shout out Ralph Williams, 24/7 and 5 too.
Co-player of the game, which was announced afterwards.
Yes, so obviously Bulldogs came, showed up, they delivered. Dog came home with a souvenir cup. He's all happy about that. So congratulations to the Bulldogs yet again, and to Ralph Williams too, co-player of the game, 24/7 and 5. Can't go wrong with that. More information on the Binghamton Bulldogs, though, BinghamtonBulldogs.com, or
check their active Facebook page.
Right on. So instead of doing rounding the bases, we're going to focus another segment of the show on a topic that we finally got a punishment, quote-unquote, dealt with.
I wouldn't call it a punishment.
Well, so Pat, why don't you break it down? The floor is yours.
So as everyone I'm sure knows, we've been covering the last couple of weeks and months about the Houston Asterisks cheating scandal that's been going on. It was, of course, broken back in November by the folks over at The Athletic that one of their former pitchers went on record with them, being The Athletic, on the cheating method that the Houston Asterisks used during the 2017 season, including their 2017 title run, to steal signs electronically. And of course, as we've said before, stealing signs in baseball the old-fashioned way, where you're looking at a guy when you're on the field, looking at a guy.
The old-fashioned way.
Well, yeah, when you're standing on the field looking at a guy and you determine, all right, this means fastball, this means shit, is fine. What is against the rules, and expressly against the rules, is using any form of electronic means to determine the signs. The Yankees got in trouble for it back in, I want to say it was 2017. The Boston Red Sox had the Apple Watch incident that same year. But then this came down, and Major League Baseball came down with a 9-page letter, whatever you want to call it, from Major League Baseball Commissioner, the Major League Baseball Commissioner. I won't read the full thing because it's 9 full pages, and I'll include a link in the show notes for you to check out and read it on your own time. But what ended up coming down was that General Manager Jeff Lunau and manager AJ Hinch were suspended for a year, which is the longest such suspension for any office staff or coaching staff since Pete Rose. And the team was then had their 2020 and 2021 first and second round draft picks taken away, and the team was fined $5 million. Now, it's a good thing there wasn't any recording devices near me when this news came down, because I was uttering some choice words that were probably making my ancestors' ears turn red. Because to me, and we've said this before, this to me was not enough. This was, baseball needed to go a lot harsher with this. That you really needed to put your foot down and really set an example that if you try doing this again, this is the baseline punishment for what you will face. No less than an hour later, Asterisk's manager, Jim Crane, had a press conference with some of the media, and it came out that the Asterisks had fired Jeff Luhnow, their now former general manager, and AJ Hinch, their now former manager. It should be, like I said, just a couple of interesting notes from the letter from the commissioner of baseball. In regards to Jeff Luhnow, he said, quote, Luhnow adamantly denies knowledge of both the banging scheme, that being the method of them banging on the drum to alert the batters, and the efforts by the replay review room staff to decode signs to transmit them to the dugout. The investigation revealed no evidence to suggest that Luhnow was aware of the banging scheme. The investigation also revealed that Luhnow neither devised nor actively directed the efforts of the replay review room staff to decode signs in 2017 or 2018. Although Luhnow denies having any awareness that his replay review room staff was decoding and transmitting signs, there is both documentary and testimonial evidence that indicates Luhnow had some knowledge of those efforts, but he did not give it much attention. And I should note, if you Google what baseball GM job description, quote, a general manager is the person on a baseball team responsible for building the team. They are usually tasked with player recruitment, development, trades, and overall management of the team. They are also responsible for hiring staff to support the team, including all managers and coaches. So they're the be-all, end-all, they're one step down. They're kind of, like, if we're talking like U.S. government, they're like, you got the owner who's the president, and then the general manager is like the vice president. So they're in charge of that. In regards to manager AJ Hinch, it says Hinch neither devised the banging scheme nor participated in it. Hinch told my investigators that he did not support his players decoding signs, using the monitor installed near the dugout, and banging the trash can, and he believed that the conduct was both wrong and distracting. Hinch attempted to signal his disapproval of the scheme by physically damaging the monitor on 2 occasions, necessitating its replacement. However, Hinch admits that he did not stop it, and he did not notify players or Alex Cora that he disapproved of it, even after the Red Sox were disciplined in 2017. So essentially, he knew this was going on, and he knew they were doing it, and he knew it was against the rules, because let's not forget, when the Red Sox had the Apple Watch incident, baseball and Joe Torre put out a management saying, hey, cut the crap, this is against the rules, and they still did it. Yep. And the players tried playing it off of, if he would have said something, we would have stopped it immediately. In regards to Alex Cora, it says, who was then the bench coach of the Houston Astros. He's now the manager of the Boston Red Sox, although breaking news on that one in a minute.
Yep.
It says Cora was involved in developing both the banging scheme and utilizing the replay review room to decode and transmit signs. Cora participated in both schemes, and through his active participation implicitly condoned the players' conduct. I will withhold determining the appropriate level of discipline for Cora until after baseball completes its investigations of the allegations that the Red Sox engaged in impermissible electronic sign stealing in 2018 while Cora was the manager. Close quote. The breaking news is that now the thing with this all came down yesterday, and they said, we're going to withhold judgment on Cora until after we investigate the Red Sox. The last I'd heard, was there were reports saying that whatever AJ Hinch got, Cora was going to be worse. We don't got to wait long to figure out what's going to happen to him. The breaking news is that the Boston Red Sox have fired Alex Cora. I had heard some stories, and I don't know if they were actual reports or people just speculating, but I think the general belief was that the Red Sox were going to hold on to him until after the investigation was over and done with. That appears to not be the case. Alex Cora is out in Boston. My reaction to all of this is baseball went too light.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dog, you have any thoughts? We'll just kind of go around.
I think it's going to, I'm hearing too now, it's like, it's just not those 2 teams. It's like multiple teams that have been doing this. So They got to get this situation under control, or
yeah, no,
it's just going to be like the steroid era all over again.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, you like I said, you really had to put your foot down on this and really send a message that this is what's going to happen to you if you try doing this. That you're whatever arguably should have been done. That it's really going to discourage teams from holy crap, the equivalent of like the death penalty in the NCAA. That, oh my God, if we do this, this is going to set the team back and our careers back years. But in doing so, none of the players got injured. And now I understand they might have had a hard time disciplining the players because baseball has one of, if not the strongest players union in all of professional sports. But the fact that this was a player-driven, scheme, that Alex Cora was kind of like the mastermind behind it and really got all the parts and pieces in place, but it was the players that were the ones looking at the signs and decoding the signs and conveying what it was going to be. For all of the players to come out of this, scot-free, they got off, they lose nothing, they still get to keep the World Series title, which I think is absolutely wrong. Now, I'm not saying give it to the LA Dodgers. The LA Dodgers have got to be, and Dodgers fans got to be pissed about this because you lost back-to-back World Series to back-to-back teams who cheated. Mm-hmm. I heard the idea that a class action lawsuit might be thrown at Major League Baseball about this, and I would not be surprised by this. But you really went light on this, that you really had to send a message about this, that what's to stop a team that, hasn't won the World Series ever. The Mariners come to mind, the Rays come to mind. I think the Padres haven't won one either. That what's to stop a team that is really desperate for a World Series to do this? And possibly win a World Series that, all right, you doing all this stuff that's against the rules and you're going to win a World Series out of this, but all right, all you're going to lose is your GM. You're going to lose your GM and your manager for a year.
Coach, your thoughts?
I literally cannot. This sport is in shambles. I think that if you are a fan of baseball, and that is fine, I think that you need to be questioning your fanship if you are just accepting this as the norm and moving on, because it's completely disrespectful to the game. It's a sham is what it is. It's unfair play, which, I mean, I understand that, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, but this is disrespecting, the respect of the game and the professionalism of the game. And, it angers me to the fact that a guy like Pete Rose, who was a legend in his day and one of the most highest regarded players of all time, gets a lifetime ban and is unable to, go into the Hall of Fame or won't get voted for the Hall of Fame because he gambled on the sport. Gambled as a manager, not even a player. Well, he did gamble a little bit as a player, but as a manager mostly. And you banned him, but somebody who literally was defying the rules set forth by Major League Baseball, you're only banning him for a year, and he's going to be able to come back the next year. That's just pathetic.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Pete Rose. Randy Miller of the New Jersey Advanced Media was able to get an interview with Pete Rose, and I asked him about this whole thing. And he said, "quote He doesn't understand why players involved in the scandal, weren't punished by the league." He said, "quote What's going to happen to Beltran? Can he manage the Mets now? He was a ringleader, right? This whole thing, it's getting technical. I just can't imagine how many people are really involved. I can't imagine doing something like that." He said he went on to say, most players don't give a damn about what happens to an organization as long as it doesn't happen to them. If I'm a player and every time I bat, I'm getting the signs from the dugout, I'm just as guilty as the guy who is giving me the signs. So that's something Pete Rose had to say. In my opinion, this is shameful. This is, a black eye on baseball, and any credibility that the sport might have regained from the strides they made against, fighting steroids and the suspensions they put down for first time offender in baseball. If I'm not mistaken, you're suspended for half the year, which is the toughest, penalty in all of the major sports for testing positive for something. That, all the strides they made after the black eye that was the steroids and the PEDs, you've now lost those strides. You've now moved back to where you were during the steroid era in terms of your reputation.
Baseball has lost its integrity. This is a joke of a punishment, You're punishing a billionaire or however much the Astros...
A little over $1.5 billion.
With a $5 million fine.
If the math I heard was right, that is something like 1.5% of their total team value.
Exactly. You have fired the people and suspended them for a year. And like Coach Duffy has touched upon, what's 1 year going to do?
Well, and that's the thing. What's 1 year going to do? But then the other, maybe the saving grace is what team is going to go near them. Jeff Lunau is done as a general manager. No team, I don't care who it is or how desperate it is, no team is going to go near him and hire him as their general manager or anything to do in their front office. And I think the same can be said with AJ Hinch. Yeah, he's a nice. I know all the reports and all the writers say he's a nice guy. What a nice guy he is, and how friendly he is. But are you really going to want to hire the guy that whenever let's just say he gets hired, and I'm just picking a random team. This isn't, me saying anything. Oh, he gets hired by, the Milwaukee Brewers or something like that. That it's not going to be, oh, hey, the Milwaukee Brewers hired AJ Hinch, World Series champion coach AJ Hinch is their new manager today. No, it's going to be they hired AJ Hinch, who, oh, by the way, was involved in the Asterisks cheating scandal back in 2017.
It's a complete farce. This is insulting to the sport. Honestly, my fandom for this is just out the window, and I've been a lifetime baseball fan, but I just can't understand this kind of bullshit.
No,
because that's what it is.
Oh, yeah, it is.
It's a joke.
It is.
It's a joke, and it's a joke that this is all the punishment is going to be. If you got caught cheating after you've been warned, yet you still did it. All right, so we're just going to give you a petty fine. We're not taking away any championships. We're not taking away any banners. We're not fining any players. No, this is a fucking joke. I'm sorry. This is insulting as a fan.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you think that you're still America's pastime and you're still the most popular sport, guess again. This is why people are jumping ship off. There's no purpose to this. This is a fucking joke.
And to say Rob Manfred, the commissioner of MLB, came out of this looking like smelling like fresh daisies.
No, he looks weak about this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's the end of that. Happier news. The Minnesota Twins have signed a 3-time All-Star Josh Donaldson to a 4-year deal. So there you go. Some happier baseball news.
I guess
No,
I
will not accept the happier news.
No, there's no happier news. We'll end this segment on a very happy note. Obviously, NFL, who it is not much better, but at least their integrity of their rules are.
Yeah, what do you mean not much better?
Well, some policies they need some work on.
All right, well.
But at least they're in better shape than baseball, let's put it that way.
At least it's never been proven that somebody was, able to listen in over a headset to other teams' plays. Okay?
Right.
They've been alleged, but not proven.
Right. They have a big weekend of games, obviously. AFC, NFC championship games. We're going to just do this quick roundtable style. Dog, start us off. Tennessee at Kansas City, 3:05 Sunday. Who you got?
I like Kansas City. I think they're just the more complete team, and their defense is coming on. And I know Tennessee is hot and everything, but I think Kansas City's going to take it.
Coach?
It's hard not to pick Tennessee, but as we started the segment, my heart started screaming Kansas City, so I'm going to take Kansas City.
Pat?
I'm going to take Kansas City, and I should know it's going to be 23 degrees for the high on Sunday down in Kansas City.
That's a Derrick Henry run-all-day type game.
Toasty.
I've doubted Tennessee this entire playoffs. Let's go one more game. I'm taking Kansas City.
Not so fast, my friend.
Yep. And going to the NFC Championship game, Green Bay at San Francisco, 6:40 Eastern Time on Sunday. Dog, who you got?
I can't pick San Francisco. I'm going Green Bay.
Keep it true to the word.
The Niners?
Yeah, no, I'm going with the Niners.
I was joking because I said the Packers and the Niners mixed together. I can't pick. I got Niners. I don't know. It's so... I literally... This game is literally 50-50 for me. I cannot pick a team, but I'm just going to go with the Niners because I liked Steve Young growing up.
I want to take the Niners, but I just have this odd feeling Aaron Rodgers is going to show up, so I'm taking Green Bay in the upset.
Well, yeah, he's going to show up. He has to. He's contracted to be there.
But some weird 24-21 ending. I don't. Something weird.
It's so hard, right?
It is.
It's so down the middle.
Yeah, I want to choose one, but I can't. But forcing me to, I'm taking Green Bay.
Like the Kansas City-Tennessee game, yeah, Tennessee's playing well, but Kansas City's just such a superior team.
Yeah.
Overall talent-wise, that you lean Kansas City. But this game, it's like I said in the first segment, literally each time you try and pick a matchup, it's yeah, they're good, but they're better on this end.
Yeah.
Or they're better on this end, but they're still good.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be the better game of the weekend.
It's definitely going to be. Well, I think both games are going to be a ton of fun because of what they have to offer.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 49ers-Packers game, not only for the historical standpoint, because that rivalry when we were growing up in the 90s was nuts. I mean, Brett Favre, Young, and then the Gerback, Terrell Owens game. There's so much that those teams used to just battle all the time in the NFC title games that this will be fun, a little throwback.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited to watch. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts on that and all the topics we discussed here on the show today? The music you heard on this episode is that of Fair City Fire. They're out of Austin, Texas. They've had a big week. You want to go find out more about them? FairCityFire.com, or just stop over to OchoDuroParlayHour.com and check out the music section. You can find out about them, Shout of the Robots, Walking Distance, Honker, all the great music that you hear on the show. You can check that out. You can also check out the ODPH directory where we talk about Three Fat Nerds, Horror Zone 607, 8122 Productions. Dog, have you heard Love is Scary yet?
No, I haven't.
We're going to have to get you a Patreon. Dr. Derek is going for Dr. Drew. I wish I could talk about half the stuff they were talking about in there, but like I said in previous episodes, and it's true, I've been told we will get kicked off the air because we are not behind a paywall to discuss what Derek is bringing there. He is now becoming an artiste on that show for all the content he's delivering for $1 a month. You can jump on board with that, and any other Patreons you can check out of your favorite show because there's so many good ones out there. But Love is Scary is worth the $1 alone, let alone the extra content they're giving you on 3FN and Horror Zone 607. So 8122productions.com for more information on that. Also check out Excite Wrestling, big show coming up at the first Saturday of February. More information on that, excitewrestling.com. And also shout out to Tom at Off the Cuff Gaming. He's going to be on the ODPH this week talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths recap with me and Pad. So definitely stay tuned for that, but you can find out about all our friends there on the ODPH directory, and you can also check out Parlay Points, the complimentary blog section of the show, and all our friends at hashtag NXTWAVE, hashtag 607 podcast, and hashtag PodNation, all on podchaser.com. Check out those lists, download, subscribe, and rate, review. We definitely appreciate that. That's all I got for this week. So for the one and only Nostradawgmus, Edwin Fortunato,
take care of your chicken.
For your coach, my coach, the coach, Coach Duffy.
Take care of your mentals.
For Padawan J,
Charlie Weiss still unemployed.
I'm your
son
host.
of a bitch.
I'm your host, George. I'm your host, Ken M. George Gatton is still banned from the ODPH until
Yes!
further notice. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. We'll see you next time.